Whether you are wanting to manifest more financial freedom, more happiness, more inner peace, a juicy love story for yourself and another, vibrant health, beneficial relationships, I have got you covered in my brand new book, book number 4. That's right, My Pocket Guide to Manifestation. And in this cute little book, I share with you all of my favorite tips, tricks, techniques, rituals, exercises, and practices for manifesting all the things. Of course, I've included all my favorite resistance releasing exercises because, as we know, that is key. That's not actually taught in a lot of manifestation books out there. So go check it out, My Pocket Guide to Manifestation. It's available for pre-order now wherever books are sold. I will link to it in the show notes. And if you order 2 or more copies and then send me a screenshot via Instagram or you email it to kelsey@kelseyaida.com, then I will enter you to win $500 off my retreat, October 12th to 17th. So if you want to get $500 off the retreat, enter to win by pre-ordering 2 or more. Otherwise, if you just want to have fun manifesting, grab yourself a book, My Pocket Guide to Manifestation. Go check it out. Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite podcast, Hi Vibin It. We're really excited to have you here today and dive into some, I'm not going to give it away, some fun stuff. I'm going to say that. Some fun stuff with an awesome guest, Miss Ursula Mentjes. She is a best-selling author, a business coach, and she's going to tell us what's up. So I'm really excited. We're going to talk about all the fun things. And we just found out before the call that her and Lindsay almost have the same birthday. So I'm feeling like this is meant to be. It's very aligned. We got 2 Aries in the house. Happy birthday to all the Aries out there listening. And yeah, I'm really excited. Ursula, thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me, and thanks for the great intro. This is going to be fun. I can already tell, especially since Lindsay and I almost have the same birthday.
I know.
2 fire signs. I mean, come on, same fire sign, I should say.
Same fire.
Yeah.
And passion. Ursula, it's so nice to have you here. Let's get started by just kind of telling everybody, if they are unfamiliar with you and your work, kind of where you come from and how you got into this beautiful work that you do.
This weird world I live in. So yeah, I'm definitely an accidental business owner. So let's say that first. I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota and, thought I was going to be a farmer or a veterinarian. My parents said, go to college and get a good job and everything will be fine. And they hadn't gone to college. So, they wanted their best for their kids, which I so appreciated. And so I found the closest school that I could, a little college called St. Olaf. And I majored in liberal arts, basically psychology and communication, which, there's just not a lot you can do with that, but no one told me. So when I got done, I'm like, I want to do something. I kind of want to have my own something. I don't know what that is. And so I thought I wanted to go to law school. That was my plan, have my own firm. I thought, I'd make a lot of money and live this glamorous life, except that I really didn't care about the law, right? And I didn't care about the law, but I didn't care about figuring all the things out and contracts and all those pieces. So I ended up working at Pier 1 Imports, making $6.25 an hour. If any of you have worked retail, you know what that feels like. And anyway, one day my friend Jana came to talk to me and she worked at Pier 1 Imports. We were both St. Olaf college graduates. She had a degree in economics. I thought, Jana's got it all figured out. And she's like, hey, Urs, as my friends call me, hey, Urs, I have an opportunity for us. And my favorite word in that sentence was us. Do tell, Jana, because I got nothing going on right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, hey, listen, my aunt and uncle just sold their company to IBM for about $10 million. They're empty nesters. And they said we could come and live with them in the foothills of Boulder, Colorado, in this beautiful home. And so, of course, before she could even finish, I was like, yes. And the best part was we were transferred from the Pier 1 location in Burnsville, Minnesota to Boulder, Colorado. So we had jobs when we got there. Anyway, I share this story because this was my fork in the road. And we all have that moment, right, where someone steps into our path and, maybe even says something nonchalantly and it changes our lives forever. So I was talking to Jana's uncle, Will, one day. He's the entrepreneur, the multimillionaire, had, grown a company, sold a company. And he just asked me, he's like, what are your plans? And that was kind of like code for, you can't probably live here forever for free, you and Jana living in our multi-million-dollar basement here. But like, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to go to law school. And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, Carol and I, his wife, we'd be happy to pay for that for you. And I'll tell you something, there was nothing in this Lutheran farm kid from southern Minnesota that could accept a gift like that. I must have looked at him like he had, like horns on his head or 5 eyes. And I just said, Will, oh my gosh, that's so generous. He'd never accept a gift like that. I didn't even know what to say, right? Here's the universe going, here's the gift. And I'm like, no. And so he said, may I offer you some advice? And I said, yes, please. He said, get a job in outside sales and you can do anything. You have your own company someday. You could pretty much pick your job once you know how to sell. And so I followed his advice and I said, Will, how do you get a job in outside sales? And he said, update your resume, send it to me. And, I'll send it out to people I know. Well, here's the thing, Lindsay and Kelsey, before I could even send it out, I was working at Pier 1 one day and I was literally checking this woman through. I'll never forget, she's buying these really nice rugs for her home, what I imagined to be this beautiful home. Her name was Christine. We started chatting and she worked for an international computer training consulting company. She's like, hey, what are you doing here in Boulder? Like, what's going on? She's very chatty. And I said, I'm looking for a job in outside sales, because once Will told me that's what I should do, I just started saying it out loud, even though I had really no idea what that meant. And she said, well, hey, listen, we're hiring. Who do you want to interview? Now, in that moment, I could have totally and completely disqualified myself. Today, this is one of the things that we work with all of our clients on. I still work with myself on this. It's like, what am I disqualifying myself from right now in this moment? But instead, there was a part of me that said, shh, don't say anything. Just say, yes, I'd love to interview. So I interviewed. It was one of the strangest interviews I ever had. The gentleman, because I couldn't work for Christine, I was going to work in the Denver office, that the gentleman who interviewed me just asked me all kinds of questions, but they kept saying, do you say you grew up on a farm? And I was like, yeah. And, and they're like, well, we think you'll work really hard. Now, I didn't understand exactly what that meant. A few weeks later, they'd hired me. I was training in for my job in outside sales. And the long and short of it is that the first month in sales was terrible. I hated everything about selling. It was very transactional. It felt very awkward. I made 100 cold calls, not warm calls, cold calls every day on a tick sheet before I could go home. That was my job, to sell technical training and consulting. And one day though, I had this epiphany and I thought there's got to be a better way. And you know how books find you? I'm sure both of you have experienced this. So I've been reading all the sales books. Brian Tracy, who's one of my mentors, he wrote The Psychology of Selling. He's written 80 books on sales and goal setting, and that was amazing. And then these other great books by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, like all the sales books, I read them, and they were helpful. They were about strategy. But then this book came into my life called The Power of Intention by the now late Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'm sure you're familiar with that book. I wasn't. I read it. My mind exploded, shifted forever. And I went to work the next day. Instead of making 100 cold calls, I made 25 very intentional sales calls, got 2 appointments. I started to do that every single day, 10 appointments a week. I did the math, blew my numbers out of the water. The long and short of it is I went from being an outside sales rep to president of a $20 million company in less than 5 years. So by the time I was 27 years old, I was running this multi-million-dollar company. I share this with you not to say look what I did. I share it with you because I was just a farm kid. I didn't even know. I was, unconscious competent, didn't know what I was doing. What I did know was that there was a better way. Eventually we sold that company and I wanted to take everything I knew and help other people with it. So that's what led me to launching my own company. And that's what I've been doing in many iterations since, is just helping people take quantum leaps in their income, in their sales, in their lives.
Love it. You're a great storyteller, by the way. I was like really into your story the whole time.
Well, here's the thing, Kelsey. I've told that story a few times on many stages, especially when we had live stages around the globe. So, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Makes sense. Yeah, it was so inspiring, and I just love like how beautiful the synchronicities were and how you made that note to the audience, like I could have like discredited myself here and not been open, but instead I just said yes. And I think there's a really valuable lesson in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you'd say synchronicity. I wrote one of my books is called Selling with Synchronicity. I don't know if you know that, but I'm a big believer in synchronicity, that when you get really clear on your goals, right, the next step shows up, the next human shows up that's going to help you along. And our job is just to watch for that next step and step into it and step into the next step. And it really can be that easy. I think the hardest part for people though, for entrepreneurs, for humans on the planet, is to first even figure out what the heck they want. And without that clarity, as you guys know, like nothing can show up. You know, if I'm confused, I'm just going to get more confusion back from the universe or as feedback back, right? So it's that first step of, I think, getting super clear. And that's what I was in my 20s. Like I got super clear on, you know, outside sales. Then I wanted to be the president of the company. And I was just like laser focused.
Yeah.
And you got to throw in some passion with that too. Like you actually got to like what you're doing. But when you have that kind of focus, I truly believe then synchronicity just starts to lift you. And by the way, synchronicity, Carl Jung defined it as a meaningful coincidence. Because I used to hear that word a lot. I was like, what does it mean? A meaningful coincidence.
Love that. And, you know, I know for me, one of the biggest obstacles is even if you're like, yes, okay, the next step will appear when I'm very intentional. I know what I want. But then there's also an element of releasing control. And especially for an entrepreneur, it's like, if you have the mind to be an entrepreneur and to own your own business, I feel like it's like a knee-jerk reaction to want to have your hand in every pot, and your you trying to like have your observation in every single area of your business. And you really can do that, but it'll only get you so far. I think that level of just kind of letting go and trusting that the next step will show up is one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yes. Call it
especially
trust.
for us Aries girls. Listen.
Yeah. Call it. Yeah, for sure. I definitely live in a very big faith journey, like having faith that the next step will show up, but I'm not attached to it. And that is a very, like, it's a tough balance when you really want something. You're like, oh, I want it. Now I'm going to let it go. Does that mean I still want it? What am I doing? Right. And what I have learned, like one of the experiences that I've had, many experiences that has shown me often, and this is where I think we can get stuck. Often the next step is something we don't want to do. And then we tell ourselves a tale about it. I say tale because I have an 8-year-old. So we tell ourselves a tall tale about whatever that thing is. And then we get stuck. And then we think we can tell a story that the next step hasn't shown up when it's been revealed. And I don't know if you can see that book right there, The Belief Zone. One of my
I was going to
books.
ask you about that book, The Belief Zone.
Yeah. So, okay. You guys, I've been at this for a while. So this whole law of attraction, like creating what you want, all those things. One of the things that used to drive me crazy is that people would say, hey, well, you're just stuck in your comfort zone. And I used to ask the question, I'm like, well, where the heck is that? Where is my comfort zone? What does that mean? And then where do you go when you leave your comfort zone, or how in the heck do you get out of your comfort zone? And so that's why I wrote the book, The Belief Zone, and why it's got a little circle around it. It's a zone, because we want to move out of where we're super comfortable, figure out why we're so comfortable, figure out why we're resisting taking the next step. What's our belief about that? And then we move into a new, what I call belief zone. And when you're in a new belief zone and you begin to operate from that place, the steps are revealed to you, things start to shift faster. You know, I'll give you an example, because sometimes people are like, what does that mean? I need an example. So I had a client who years ago, she was in the construction industry, and she had a $500,000 company, and she had this company for 20 years, and her income ceiling was clearly $500,000. And she'd grown a successful company. It was successful. In California, $500,000 isn't the same as it is in the Midwest, though, right? And so she wasn't living the life that she wanted to live, and she just had to hit this ceiling. Anyway, I'm trained as a psychologist, therapist, not a psychologist, sorry. I'm trained as a therapist. I've studied psychology for many, many years. And I'm always looking for what my clients are saying and what they're not saying, right? And so we were chatting, and she said something to me about, I know I've been stuck at this number for so many years. I don't love selling. In fact, I really dislike salespeople. So just don't ever call me a salesperson. And I said, well, I leaned into that. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? Why do you not want me to call you a salesperson? Like, what would that mean? And she's like, I hate salespeople. I hate what they're about. They're greedy. They're this or this. So she had this whole story and this belief about how terrible salespeople were. And her belief was that if I follow up more than 2 times, or if I, if I even cold call, people are going to think I'm whatever, fill in the blank, right? So she had this story. So I did this whole belief change process. I'm certified as an NLP coach, NLP, neuro-linguistic program. You're probably familiar with that. And so I did a belief change process on her. And on the other side of that, the new belief became, I am a professionally persistent problem solver. Because for her, it was all about like, I'm greedy, I'm not, but the truth was her clients loved her. Customers, clients, they wanted her to follow up. They wanted, and so she started to follow up, and she was shocked to hear them saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. Like, I was wondering why we hadn't heard from you. I'm ready to buy. Or there were referral partners who were like, I haven't heard from you in 5 years. Where have you been? Let's do business together. So it was this major breakthrough in belief. So her new belief zone was about, oh my gosh, I'm a professionally persistent problem solver. So when she picked up the phone, it wasn't about being salesy, it was about solving problems. Her business went from $500,000, where it had been for 20 years, to 1.2 million annually in about a year.
Nice.
And yeah, and I interviewed her on the podcast. Her name's Martha. You can go back to through many of my podcasts and find Martha's show, but it was fascinating to watch her journey, because I've had those beliefs that I kept telling myself were true for so many years, stuck in this, what I would, comfort zone, and not being able to break through an income ceiling. So that's the whole point of the belief zone, like move out of the comfort zone, step into a new belief zone. And Lindsay, that's where I really believe the steps start to be revealed even faster.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I really like that. I love NLP. I love listening right to the client. They're always telling you exactly where they're at. And so if you know what to listen for and use their vocabulary, their words, you get to the meat of it real quick. So I love that you brought that up, because we as humans, we always say, like, we know more than we give ourselves credit for. Like, every single client I've ever had, every client you've had, they know more than they think they do. They know. And so it's just really our job to kind of help them see, like, you already know. Anyway, so that's really great. I love the story. I love the stories you tell. They're so good. And I really am interested in this book now, just for, that we all have that glass ceiling. I think that whatever area you're talking about, whether it's relationships or money or, anything really, I think we all kind of have that set of beliefs that it feels so hard to get past. So might be worth checking out, and at least exploring in yourself, like, where are my beliefs kind of stuck and what would I like them to be instead? Just asking those questions can give you leaps and bounds and, quantum leaps in the right direction where you're going. So that's really cool.
Since we're on the topic of beliefs and belief shifting, rewriting, moving into a new belief zone, what are some of your personal favorite questions for, like, identifying and unblocking? Like, what are your favorite questions for getting nitty gritty into the resistance?
Yeah, such a great question. I'm going to reference this book since it's been on my desk.
Yes.
Uplevel Now. It's the latest book, and definitely a labor of love. Took a lot longer to get out because of COVID, because the publishing companies were like, But anyway, here it is. And this book, I mean, you can give in the title, Uplevel Now. By the way, I'm super clear that uplevel is not a word. So if anyone needs someone, if you're Googling, they're like, that's not a word. I will say this. I remember when I was in, like elementary school, remember, you guys maybe remember this, when they said ain't a word, and I ain't gonna say it. Do you remember we were taught? That's a word. It's a word, and you can look it up. Ain't
It's in the
the
dictionary
now.
Yep.
And they actually tell you how to use it in a sentence. So I'm a big believer that up level will someday be in a sentence, because level up, like, one of my editors was like, maybe it's level up, and I'm like, no, it's not what it is.
I say up level all the time. I know so many people that say it. It's going to be in the dictionary.
Me too.
There's no doubt.
We're with you.
So thank you. And for me, it's just been stuck in my head. It's been stuck in my head, because that's, when our clients come to us, that's what they want. They want to up level, and they don't just want to up level in their business. They want to up level in every area of their life. And believe me, I'm a work in progress. So as I was working on up leveling so many things in 2018, 2019, and I just started to write them down, and I realized there was a process. So Kelsey, to answer your question, you have to figure out what you want, right? What you really want to up level. Up level is like, what do I want at the end of this? And the fastest way to clear a belief is to first find out what you want. What's the up level? But then we get stuck with that. We're like, well, I think I want this one. So a question you can ask, and this is for our listeners, your listeners, the question you can ask that will bring you crystal clarity is this: what am I tolerating right now? And I love that question because you can ask in your, like in your business, what am I tolerating in my business right now? Let's just play with the business because I'm guessing you have a lot of CEOs out there. So let's say, so I'm actually speaking at a conference this week. It's one of the questions I'm going to be asking. I'm asking, what are the top 3 things you're tolerating in your business right now? So let's say someone answers, not enough, I hear this a lot, not enough money in the bit, not enough revenue, right? I don't have enough support. I don't have enough time. Those are probably the 3 things we hear most often. Once I can understand what you're tolerating, I know what you want. And Lindsay, I know you do this work in hypnosis, right? So what's the opposite of each one of those? All right, so you don't have enough revenue. So how much do you want? And then of course it's like, well, we start
That's
to
another question, isn't it?
Yeah, because we disqualify ourselves pretty quickly. Now, here's my tip for breaking through that is that to think about it in this way, you can actually up level the amount of money you want to make by understanding, by understanding how, okay, here we go. How much money, like, think about this. What's the most amount of money you've ever made in 1 year? Think about that in your head. You don't just think about that, right? What if you made that amount of money in 1 month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So the truth is you are already calibrated for that number because you did it. The question is, do you want to do it in a short amount of time? Yeah, of course. So, and that's why my podcast, Quantum Revenue Expansion, is all about turning your annual income into your monthly income because you're already calibrated for it. So I take people through that first. So that's already a big stretch. And they're like, wow, like that's a lot of money. Like I could definitely do that, right? Or I think I could do that. Like it seems possible. Often though, it's like, well, maybe I can't do that next month. So what's that number for next month? And it's calibrating again. It's looking at, well, here's the top number. And then, here's kind of the least I'd like to make. And usually there's a number in between there that you're ready for. And that's another way to just figure out, what that is. So again, it's about what am I tolerating? And then figuring out the opposite of that. Another one is time. We hear this so much, right? I don't have enough time. I'm working, I'm working so much. I'm working 80 hours a week. We had a client who's working, we do have some very brave men who come through our program. So he was working 100 hours a week. And he went through our course, the 2X Intensive, came out the other side. He shaved 60 hours a week off his calendar.
Wait, how do you even do that? Wait, hold on. 100 hours a week. What is that math? That's more than is that more than 12 hours a day? When does he sleep and eat? What's going on? How does he do that? I would fall over.
I know. Super smart engineer.
Uh-huh.
Loves what he does, was wearing all the hats, and then finally started to hire people that could take
there's that control piece, wearing all the hats.
Right. That's a big one. I mean, and he had to break through a lot of beliefs and stories and things about, who could really support him. And the other side of that, he's so happy. He's been in our coaching programs. He shows up to all of our events because he just wants to tell people, like, I'm working so much less now. My life is so much better.
Well, and real quick, it also speaks to what you said about when you have that next step, oftentimes it's the one thing we don't want to do. And I bet you anything for this person, one of the biggest things he didn't want to do was release that false sense of control and wearing all the hats that he had. And once he did, it was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this. And I hear that all the time. The one thing you don't want to do is the thing you say, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. Why was I so afraid of doing this? So I just wanted to circle back because you did actually bring up a really good point with that. And I'm sure for him, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for most of our clients, if they're multi-6 figures wanting to break through 7 figures, they're still wearing some hats that just need to go. And that's a stretch. And, and some hold on longer than others, but you're absolutely right. On the other side of that, they're all like, why didn't we make this switch sooner?
What was I so afraid of? You know what's interesting?
Well, you didn't know what you didn't know.
Exactly. Yes. Let's give ourselves some compassion because now that you do, it's like you can make those choices. I know maybe Kelsey has this going on too, but I know for me, like, even if let's go through the process. So what am I tolerating? Okay. What was the most I made in a year? What if I could make that in a month? The thing that I recently learned about myself is that I expect, and so I kind of write it in stone mentally, that it must take a long time. So the most I've made in a year must take 12 months to do. And that's where the belief gets stuck because I didn't do it sooner. So that is now the belief system. Does that make sense? So like, yeah, sure, that would be wonderful. But I still have something in my brain, in my mind that's like, but really? Because it took you a year. So maybe it's supposed to take a year. And I don't want that. What would you say to somebody that's thinking that?
Yeah, let's play it out. So I would say, Lindsay, I'd say, what are 3 things that are potentially not true about your belief?
3 things that are potentially not true about making it take a year. I mean, people do it all the time. There's number 1.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's really no real reason why I couldn't.
Okay. What else?
That are not true. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know what the third one would be.
Potentially not true.
Potentially not true. Well, just the fact that like a belief isn't true. It's just a thought you keep thinking.
Right. Yeah.
A belief isn't fact, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. It's a thought that we keep pointing to, and we will look for evidence of it, as you know. And by the way, I mean, you and I can help people with this stuff all day long. It doesn't mean that we
Right.
fix our own limiting beliefs like that. We all have coaches. We all have people we work with.
Every coach has a coach, or should have a coach.
Or 5. I need a lot.
Yes.
This needs a lot of help. So I think it's that piece. So once you start to look at what's not true, potentially not true about it, the belief starts to fall away. And that's where, in my belief change process, then you can say, what would I rather believe about making my annual income into my monthly income? So what would you rather believe about that?
Well, I would rather believe that I'm ready for that. I'd like to believe that. I'd like to believe that it's easier than I think. And that it's the natural next step.
There you go. Okay. So I would have you write those things down.
I'm writing it, girl.
Yeah. And really start to lean into those new beliefs and thoughts, and begin to look around for evidence that could potentially be true. And what I mean by that is, after you've done this process, you start to get those divine downloads, those ideas that fall in, and you start to see a way to get there. And here's another hack. Like, another hack is this. So whatever that number is, right? So let's just use easy math. Let's say the most someone made is 100,000 a year, and they want to do 100,000 a month. I hear that a lot. People leave corporate America, they were making 6 figures. Now they want 6-figure months. So with our clients, we create what I call a model month template. And I take them through a short visualization process to get really clear on, what $100,000 month, for example, could look like, how it could show up. And often when they start to do this exercise, they start to get all these aha moments and downloads, because they start to see, often it's like, I probably need to raise my prices. I probably need to offer packages if I've been doing one-offs. I probably need to work with only my ideal client. I probably need to
work harder and
up-level.
Hustle more.
No,
never.
No. I probably
so you're saying this is what they could actually do, not what they believe they need to do.
Right.
I see. I got you.
So what happens, it's like when you bring in the bigger goal, it's like, it does bring up stuff, right? So I recommend you're working with someone who can help you, like Lindsay, to clear the kind of the stories, or they're lies, like the lies we tell ourselves about, right? Start to clear that stuff, because that'll definitely pop. But also you'll start to get the ideas, though. Like, for a lot of our clients, they need to charge more. A lot of our clients are in service-based businesses. They need to offer packages, maybe a couple packages. Often they need to change how they're marketing.
Mhm.
they probably need to get more committed. Like a lot of times they'll have kind of an idea of who their ideal client is, but it's like this, and it really needs to be like this. It needs
Yep.
to be super focused. And so those things start to happen by simply asking that question. And so it's an Excel spreadsheet. So we break down exactly what an ideal month would look like for you at 100,000 or whatever the number is per month. And I'm telling you, the shifts that start to happen
Yep.
are amazing. And all of a sudden they can see it.
Hey there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for Vibin It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really
Yeah.
cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, Vibin It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.